I'm on a quest to digest and dissect every little nudge in Cyberpunk 2077. Every detail I can possibly find, everywhere I can possibly get, with the help of the double jump reinforced pendants, which can get you places that were definitely not meant to be accessed. In today's video, I will be going through the Corporate Plaza, part of the city center, and work my way up and around the whole map. We are starting nice and cozy in the Corp Plaza apartment that we can purchase. So if there is any Corp haters out there, don't get jealous that I get tea kettle and you don't. While we are in here, let's take a look around. The first thing I've noticed is this coffee machine. There's a couple of nice little different brands of coffee on top, but more interestingly, on the bottom of this picture, there is prices that you would probably find in a coffee shop somewhere. But once you actually brew your own coffee in this apartment, you obviously don't pay anything. So sadly, this is just a reused asset and not really unique for this apartment. Right next to the coffee machine, there is something I assume is a fridge door with an actual menu on it. Again, this more resembles something they used from an actual shop outside in the city rather than a personalized thing. Again, there's prices for everything, and a lot of the text is in Chinese, which I have actually managed to roughly translate through the Google Lens. So here's the English translation. Again, probably not very accurate, but it's interesting that it's an actual text. Next to our menu of choice, we have what is called Medical Examination Report 4455, 444, and other numbers. In here, I'm only assuming that this is just another asset from somewhere in the map that is for some reason in this apartment. I'm not really sure why, aside from just looking like futuristic sort of smart glass thing. It's definitely out of place in kitchen either way, so moving on. There's some sponges and cleaning equipment below the sink. This I just found a little bit funny. For some reason, there is this kind of Channel 4 54 news. I don't really understand. I think it's supposed to be some kind of website that, today would even exist. For some reason, this entire thing is situated in such a way that even when I'm crouching with my character, I barely can really see it. It's really hard to use, so yet again, this is probably just placed here so it looks cool and is not expected to actually be used or work. In this apartment, you can also indulge yourself in habits such as smoking or drinking. Excuse me, as I had to double check this very interestingly looking bottle. Here's a little bit more interesting part of the apartment, and there's gonna be a couple of them in here. This image or painting, picture, framed thing, I don't know how to call it, what to describe it as. It seems like it's blurred, like it's not in its full resolution. I don't know if that's on purpose or if it's just not loaded specifically just to save some kind of memory. Either way, it's strange to have it here. Again, I have no idea what this is supposed to be. Same as goes what I think is for every apartment we can purchase. You can sit down on the couch and watch some TV. There is more than questionable ads going around all the time. Oh hey, we can actually watch some news. Oh, and it's an ad break. How realistic, right? And yes, it was about at this point I realized we don't actually get any real sounds coming out of the TV. Moving on, going around the apartment, you can play a music that is a vinyl, which is interesting for 2077, but I guess if you are into that. There is a spinning record with the samurai logo on it, playing a song. I'm not sure which one this one is. Going into the armory of this apartment, we have yet another strange looking display with something that I can only assume is some kind of news reports One news article in particular is being fleshed out that reads "Meatman strikes again." If you're interested in piece of trivia like this, you can find it in the fandom of Cyberpunk. I will leave the link in the description. Here's something that I thought initially was interesting piece of possible Easter egg. It turns out to be very regular texture that you can find everywhere around the city. Didn't stop me from staring at it for like 10 minutes straight. Then of course there is the bathroom, there's mirror, there's the shower, and there is something that I guess you could call a walk-in closet. I didn't find anything too out of the ordinary in here. Before completely leaving the apartment, I have stumbled upon something mildly interesting at least. There is this magazine that I found on the table, and I accidentally jumped on it in such fashion that it flipped over and revealed this. There's a number of different magazines inside the game, in newsstands and all these other places, so I assume this is just a really standard common issue. But on the back of this one, there is something that roughly resembles what you could call today's smartphone, except it's just all over the place with all of the things that is wrong with it. It's too thick, you know, the display seems too small for its size, all these things. I'm assuming this is not gonna be a smartphone, or at least not the way we know it today. Either way, I'm mentioning it personally just because I've never seen this up until now, so here it is, a weird cyberpunk smartphone. Now it's time to go down the elevator into the hotel's lobby. Here, first thing I've noticed was this wall of numbered doors. Now you may be thinking, well, that's obviously mailboxes, as was I, but turns out every single number on these doors is the same. So either these are not mailboxes or it's simply a design oversight. Moving on, we can jump right in behind the receptionist desk and look all around. The lady behind the desk is also looking at the Channel 4 website. What a coincidence! One tiny thing in here worth mentioning is that there is a small metal detector that you could see at the airports and such, in a case that this big one detects something on you. Neat detail. Finally done with the plaza, we are at last walking outside Night City. I don't really have any methodical plan to search everywhere, so I have decided to just start walking. Soon enough, I spotted a number of people sitting around, and many of them were using the smartphone I mentioned before.
I can do for you? 'Cause I'm kind of busy.
Interesting that I've never noticed it before until now. This guy has some cool watch though. It didn't take long to find enemies in Night City, which I disposed of easily.
Exactly.
After clearing this garage, I found a floating bag with a quest marker on it. This is actually common in Cyberpunk, as a lot of quests happen through natural gameplay, so it's possible to stumble upon a quest item that didn't start yet. Suppose I will be coming back later. My next stop was the water portion of this part of the map. Unsurprisingly, there is little to say about it. Everything here is just repeated textures of boxes or some car wrecks. Once out of the water, I have by chance found a secret encounter I have never seen before. The scene has a dead body. Apparently this one died by a fall. While high on drugs, he thought he could fly to the space. The mission was a failure. After this encounter, it was time for me to just start roaming around and jumping up a little bit to see where I can actually get on the map. I was just about to give up on climbing up these buildings when I have noticed something interesting. So as you could expect, I have made my way up the bridge support, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I was kind of hoping for some kind of Easter egg up in here, sort of like in the GTA games, but unfortunately nothing up here. There was this one cool effect that you will see a lot in Cyberpunk, and I don't really blame the devs for this, because this is definitely not the place they would expect you to be. But anyway, it is still interesting to look at. Jumping up on this highway guard, you can actually get into this little strange spot that kind of almost looks like some kind of shrine. Definitely supposed to be some kind of makeshift place to hang out with a bunch of friends, but because I don't have any, I had to move on. Eventually I've stumbled upon an Arasaka harbor, or at least the ship is definitely Arasaka, which was heavily guarded, so I've disposed of the guards yet again, but unfortunately there is really nothing to say about the ship itself. If you are careful, you can actually climb up this antenna on the ship. After jumping off of the antenna straight into the water, I have made my way into some kind of shipping crate area, and in here I have actually found an interesting find. This scene is less than fortunate example of what is going on in Night City on a nightly basis. There's a couple of body bags, one body has a throwing knife inside of it, and the other man was presumably beaten to death by an electric baton. And from here I've decided once again to try and climb up as many big buildings as I can, and again with the double jump that you can get in Cyberpunk, it's relatively easy to get places that you have definitely not meant to be. I got myself onto this really tall building. Unfortunately from here there's not much to really do, so again I jumped back down. Eventually I've made my way around and stumbled upon this water silo, and I noticed it has a ladder on it, yet of course that you can't actually climb this ladder, but I set up myself to actually get up there somehow, so here's the progress on that. At some point I've realized that if I just jumped from the highway, I could actually get up in there. On the first glance I wasn't exactly sure if I can really make it. First of all, I will need to sprint first to get the appropriate height, and I wasn't sure if I can do that, but alas, as you can see, it was possible. And here is where my gymnastic skills start being a little bit strange. I am used to the map being the way it is, but maybe if you are not used to it, you will find it a little bit strange. There's a lot of textures that have collision, but are not actually visible to you, because you are usually in places where you are not supposed to be. So a lot of the footage I'm just showing you right now is literally just there for the looks and not for interaction with the player, but I found my way around. And couple hundreds jumps later, here it is, the big neon sign from behind, which is definitely not the place that the developers are expecting you to look. Unfortunately, as usual, there is really nothing else to it than just missing textures. And from here I've decided once again to jump down and look elsewhere. Huh. You see that too? I think we can get there. And as easy as that, we are on the railroad of the Cyberpunk strange train that you can't take unless you use a mod. And I will save you some time right here. No, you can't really ride them. I have tried a couple times. I did notice this building just on the right of the rail, and I know that normally I really don't think I would be able to jump on it, on top of it, so I decided to use this opportunity to maybe try and not die. And here we go. Now, the top of this building, I don't even know really what kind of building this is at all on the map normally, but the top of it, definitely not for exploration or for looking at. Either way, I was surprised on how many details are there actually on this roof, even though there is nothing really of note. Still impressive looking details for, you know, the fact that nobody's ever really gonna go here. There was this interesting glitch part of the roof where you can literally just angle yourself right and see through the entire map, which is very common on top of rooftops where you're not supposed to be. This is nothing, you know, has nothing to do with Cyberpunk being unfinished. This is literally like the type of thing that happens when you go out of bounds, basically, of any video game. Either way, I've decided to reload my save and get back on the rail. And we will just go straight and wow, That's a hole. You see that? That's a hole in a building. I need to get in that hole. But this one looks really far away. Not to mention I have really little space to actually sprint before jumping. So I don't really feel like it's possible to even reach this. Yeah, this doesn't seem to me like... Oh, did you see that? There is a ledge. And yep, we are there. So this probably doesn't surprise anybody at this point, but yet again, there's nothing here to really look at. There's even an invisible wall just in case, I guess, somebody actually made their way inside here. Let's just carry on. Following this railroad, we will get to the point where you are probably supposed to be entering the train itself, and also part of the entire game that was ultimately scrapped. This is an original CD Projekt Red textures that the mod for the train actually uses, so if you want to try that out, I will leave a link in the description to the mod. Here I've decided to really jump off this time off the rail, but that's just because we are inside in between the buildings where we are definitely not supposed to be, and I have decided to look around, and there's a platform here that I know that there's no way I could actually reach the top of, except I'm an absolute mechanical genius, so here I go. Once on top of the platform, we can see some kind of apartment building texture, obviously not actually used by the video game, but it's definitely interactable and you can get inside of it. Nothing much here to see, but once I've exited the building, I've realized it wouldn't be too difficult to actually climb it up. See, everything that has a ledge in this game is actually climbable to some degree, and once you learn that, the Night City is your oyster. Oh, and in case you were curious, this is how the behind of the yellow light wall looks like. After a few tries of some painful climbing, I managed to actually get on top this green structure. Once up here, the unfortunate reality is that there is a lot of invisible walls and you can't really get any higher from up here. Seeing that, I decided to get one story lower and see if there is anything that I can actually jump onto, and turns out there is. From here, things start getting a little bit dicey. I somehow found my way around the city in all the way up here, which as usual led nowhere, so I ended up landing on this rail again, which actually led to an interesting place on the map. For some unknown reason, there is an actual texture of the classic stairs up that obviously don't really lead anywhere. Following some more acrobatics, I ended up in this place. But there's no real things, no secrets, just empty space, because, well, you're not supposed to be here. Pushing just a little bit further up, I found this strange place. Normally it wouldn't be possible to get inside of this, but here's a little funny trivia for you. When you are sliding with your character, your size is actually lowered temporarily, which means that you can get in a space like this if you know how to do it. Unfortunately, just because you got here doesn't mean there is anything for you to see, so that also led nowhere. After a couple more dead ends, I decided to start following the rail again, and I ended up around these buildings. And again, nothing here of note. There's one more building in this part of the map that I wanted to try to climb up, and that is this wall that's on an angle. Well, the thing about angles in this game and in most games is that you can actually temporarily land on an angle, because pixels actually never can make an angle, they can just make these tiny stairs. So with some more effort we managed to climb up this wall as well. By the way, while climbing this wall, I noticed these public binoculars that literally look like they are meant to look like they are 3D printed and not actually working. I'm not sure why that is, but it seemed interesting. Once we finally reach the top, there is still some more way to go. But before we do, I have noticed one thing. This is the garage from before that was locked and you couldn't get on top of it. And there is strange symbols on top of this building that I don't really understand. And I may try to come back to there because I don't think it's gonna be difficult. For now, I've decided to climb down from all the buildings and start exploring the actual map. Right next to the Arasaka Tower Memorial, we have the famous Magenta statue. If you are somehow still unaware of this cyberpunk mystery, I recommend watching some of the hundreds of videos providing a little too much information, or you can visit the mystery subreddit. For today, I will not be going over it, but I will try to jump on it. Besides the little bit strangely shaped box the statue is built inside of, there is little of note. There are some numbers on the statue, but these could be easily interpreted as chips on a motherboard, which they likely are meant to be anyway. We can spot some written pleasantries. Less than enthusiastic guitarist.
Fuck this country.
One a little too enthusiastic cop.
Something, always. You there for something?
Look, the screen is upside down. Also happened to catch the drama theme on a lunch break. There's nothing too much to say about the weather report, but you're welcome to read it. This corner looks like a crime scene, except the cops left it. And they were looking up stocks, seems like. I always felt like smart shotguns don't get nearly enough love.
I swear I won't completely kill you. We're losing animals here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Right, remember the garage rooftop I've mentioned earlier? Let's look at it. Some of this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what? Oh look, it just says die. I'm an idiot. Brave CDPR referencing Pulp Fiction.
Does he look like a bitch?
Was a good movie. You can easily get behind one of these locked places, by the way. Once here, the elevator controls are actually interactable, but they don't do anything. Seeing as I couldn't get out anymore, I had to use one of these conveniently placed turrets. Close by there is a couple of bars you can visit. Jumping over the counter, I found my very own apartment menu right here. Well yeah, so these very used assets. Even the coffee prices are here. I'm kinda running out of things, so here's an unfinished building behind a hologram. Before I end this magical experience, I want to fight someone one more time. The combat in Cyberpunk is actually still enjoyable to me.
About to show you what real.
And that's it for the corporate plaza part of the city center. There's obviously a good chance I've missed something. I did not look up anything up front. The point here was to just walk around and see what I can find. Also, this is the longest I've spent on a video yet, so the next part may come after a little while. I wanted to say before I leave that this is not in any way a mocking video. I'm not trying to point out problems or mistakes in the game. As a matter of fact, I will make this kind of video for other games someday. I love the Night City map. It may be one of my favorites. Despite occasional bugs or unfinished places, it's incredibly detailed, which makes the exploration a lot of fun. And finding the unfinished parts is even more fun. So I want to thank anyone who has watched the video in its full length. If you'd like, you can follow my Twitter, that's in the description. There is not a whole lot in the feed right now, mainly because I don't have anyone following at the moment. But I plan to be more active there, so check that out. Alright, that's everything from me. You have yourself a great spin class. Later.